Hello? Hello?
Okay, now recording is in progress.
Hello? Presenting to you Liberian activist via hand. Yourself to netizens. Hello? Hello?
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. Hello.
Please introduce yourself.
Pardon?
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Ade Wedeh Kekuleh. I'm a Liberian.
Yeah. So what are you into? What are you into?
Could you please
What are you into? What do you do?
Okay, I do several things. I am an author, a lawyer, a accountant, a journalist, and activism for women and children. And I'm also into activism for women and children.
You have a long list. So how do you combine all this?
I do. Well, I do my best to assist where I can, and I just try to ensure that while I got so much to do, I also remember that I have a body to protect, because your body can do so much and no more. So I try to concentrate on one thing at a time, but if I have to multitask, I do.
Now, when you talk of activism, what do you mean?
In activism, I concentrate mainly on indigenes. Indigenes are people who cannot afford the services of lawyers, but they do have genuine issues. And most times I concentrate on the rights of women and children. So we just ended a case with a girl who was basically abused as a child, had another child. I mean, she had a child and was disowned by this man who happened to be Lebanese. And when she sued him for support, he insisted the child wasn't his. So I told her we'll just have to go to court and let the judge be the determinant. At court, the judge decided, look, since you are insisting that this child is not yours, the lady is saying the child is yours, the best thing we can do is to do a DNA. Unfortunately, in the course of doing the DNA, the child fell ill and died. Now, the child was terminally ill. It wasn't realized that the child was living with HIV until at 18 months. So the child passed, but the result still came in and it was discovered. The result proved that the child was the Lebanese's child. So when the client asked for advice, I just told her, look, this man has said this child is not it's not his. DNA science has proven that beyond reasonable doubt that this child is his. So the best we can do is to sue for damages for wrong. And we went to court, and a jury awarded us $250,000. What we've already made an assignment. The case went to the Supreme Court because they accepted and announced an appeal to the Honorable Supreme Court. That's your High Court. And the case was heard where the judge, the full bench still ruled against them. So this full bench issued a mandate, which was taken to Margibi, and an assignment has been made for the mandate to be read in open court on December 6th. That's Tuesday after next. But activism actually started with, for me, with women and girls living in the streets, and then it gravitated to women and girls living with HIV. And we were able to work hard to ensure that the women and girls living with HIV were able to ensure that they were able to set up this organization that will assist women and girls living with HIV, and not only those living with HIV, but those affected by HIV. So that organization is up and running, and I'm very proud to say that. They're finding other means of sustainability. They're helping themselves. They have a farm. They have small businesses that they make crafts, beads, and designed slippers and all those kind of things. And they sell those things, and they use it to take care of themselves and their children. So I'm happy that we were part of that endeavor. And whenever I can, I always do my best to advise women who have issues um, with domestic violence, with self-sustainability, with children. And it really gives me great satisfaction. So basically, that is it. Let me not say too much because I don't want to take up all your time talking about women and girls, because trust me, I'm not going to stop.
You concentrate on girls, women. What about men?
Most times in my country, there are the issues of abuse. It more often than not is about women. But sometimes there are times when women do offend men. I remember an instance. I'm a member also of the Association of Female Lawyers of Liberia, and what we do, we volunteer some time because there are women that take cases to the office, and we try to see how we can resolve those issues. And there was a case that was assigned, and this lady had taken her husband to Eiffel, saying the man does not take care of the home, and she brought him on complaint of persistent non-support. So we went into the case, and the man came, he explained his side, that he doesn't work for a lot of money. He went as far as bringing his pay stub. I mean, he brought a copy of his pay stub. So we knew he was not telling lies. We called his controller, and the controller confirmed that yes, it's the amount this man is making. And he says he does the basics. He takes care of the children's school. He pays the rent. And when it comes to food, he buys the basic. That's the rice, the oil, the um, other kinds of seasoning, all that. So all he has to do is just just find some kind of vegetable for them to be able to, and some little fish or something for them to be able to eat. And she sits supinely at home doing nothing. I mean, she basically waits for the man to bring everything. So after the man explained that, I told her, come on. I mean, at least you have to help the man. This is not like those days where we depended on our husbands for everything. You have to be able to help yourself. So she got so angry. And she even went as far as telling me, oh, she doesn't know how I got my degree and all that. But I think she was just embarrassed and ashamed. But we asked her to go back, she and the husband to go back 2 days later. So when tensions were not so high, we sat down, we talked. Look, you need to help the man. You can't strain him. And if you continue this way, the man is going to stop respecting you. And that's going to be your own fault. So later on, she understood the rationale behind our action. And today she's doing well. She does her small business. She sells food, gets up early in the morning and prepares food and people buy. But so at least she's able to chip in family wise. She's able to chip in the food, she's able to help with the children's school fees and even take care of herself. She doesn't have to wait for her husband to give her money to care for herself. So that's it. But yes, sometimes we do work in the favor of men, but it's more often women because it's women who, in my country, is women who bear the brunt of um, those kind of issues.
Like in most countries of the world too.
Pardon?
Like in most countries of the world.
Yeah, especially in Africa.
Yeah, by the way, we are not seeing your face. Did you hear
Wow.
me?
Okay. So
We are not seeing your face.
okay. Okay. So let me try and put on my camera so you see my face. Okay. This is me.
Okay. Now, let's talk about your writings. How many books have you written? Let's talk about your writings. Your
Okay.
writings. How many books have you written?
So far 11. Okay, so of those 11, I've co-authored with two. One of them is called Baby Basics and is a guide to helping young girls who suddenly find themselves pregnant, and I'm talking about teenagers. Basically, it helps them. And I co-authored this book with several other women and men, I must add. And the idea was to help guide young mothers into what to expect during the duration of the pregnancy, what to do if she experiences certain things, what not to do, and also when she gives birth, what can she do? How can she help herself? And even though people say it's against human rights, but we did endeavor to actually say, to give some advice, to say having a child is not an easy thing. It's it's a big responsibility. So you want to think twice before having another child before you are ready. And the second book co-authored is a text, a social studies text for Liberian schools. We were several authors and we wrote from grades 4 to 6. We wrote parts, each of us wrote parts of those three grades. For the rest of the books, they've been mostly nonfiction and they've been textbooks. There is one that I've written that is basically fiction, but educative, and it's called What I Want to Be When I Grow Up. And it's a children's book, and it's basically about those kind of things, those ideas, the different careers people can aspire to, sorry. And it says somebody wants to be, if I want to be a policewoman, what am I going to do? What does the public expect of me? If I want to be a doctor, what does the public expect of me? If I want to be a businesswoman, to start my own business, be self-employed, what does the public expect of me? Those kind of things. And it's called What I Want to Be When I Grow Up. So it's basically for children from grades 1 to 3. And it was one of the toughest things that I've ever done. I didn't realize that it is really, really tough to write for very little children. But I'm getting there. I'm grateful to the Liberian Association of Writers. We have several workshops and trainings where people who are more experienced in those areas teach those of us who are not. Where we have our strengths, we teach those who don't have that strength. So I owe it to God first, and then to my organization. If I can write for children, it's because of the patience that they had it with us. So
Okay.
basically, that's
So what do you think of feminism?
what do I think of feminism? Well, I understand feminism to be um, what a man can do, a woman can do also, but I'm not sure if it is really, really understood in our part of the world. Um, some of my friends come up and say, "Oh, they are feminists," but the the understanding is that most times they are antagonistic towards their partners, towards men, and I'm like, I wonder if this is what it is meant to be a feminist, you know. And I also think, I also believe that yes, you can be a feminist, but God made a man and he made a woman. We're two different people with two different kinds of body structures. So there are certain things a man can do that we are never going to be able to do. And vice versa, there are certain things that we can do that the men are never going to be able to do. Even though science has said they're trying, but I'm still waiting to see. So basically, I think feminism should be all about supporting women, but I believe that there is a line to be drawn. That there is so much we can do and no more. If you talk about feminism being um, advocacy so that women can earn as much as men, I agree. If so that women can earn more than men, I agree. But if you behave, it's talking about feminism where you talk about everything the men can do, I can do, then I have an issue because the truth about it is that their structure, I mean, they're built to have more strength than us women. So it's going to be, if you decide you want to be that kind of feminist, then I, I don't know if it's going to augur well for you because then you have to push yourself to be something you are not. But I admire feminists who push for rights of women, okay? And people like those are the ones I call the real feminists, yeah, who ensure that women can do exactly what they are built to do, and men can do theirs. Like if a man and a woman are doing the same job, I don't see why they they should not earn the same salary, you know. I remember when I worked at the Liberian Revenue Authority, there was an instance like that where a lady she came under attack from the men because all of us were sitting in the same position. We were managers, and some way, somehow, the information leaked that she was making more money. Now, I also felt that my team and I, not so much of me, but my team was doing a very great job. So if there was any benefit that was supposed to come, at least it should go to them. But when the controversy really started, I decided not to say anything because the person who was being attacked was another woman. And I thought by saying something, I was going to be going against her. Not to mention the fact that while it is true that she was making, or she was alleged to have been making more money than us, it was also true that she was not the one who made a decision. That was solely the decision of our overall boss, who was the Commissioner General for the Revenue Authority at the time. So if there is anybody who we should have confronted, it should have been our boss and not her. So because of that, I didn't say anything because I felt it wouldn't have been fair to her. Not to mention that I was another woman. It could have been me. It could very well have been me, and I would have expected that some kind of support from her. So for me, that's my simple idea about feminism. If it is about rights of women and men, I agree. But when it becomes to certain other qualities that men can never be or women can never be, then and we insisting that no, because we're feminists, we have to be that. No, then I don't agree.
Great. Now, let's talk about your country, Liberia.
Okay.
Liberia during the war and after. Can you compare both?
Well, when the war started in Liberia, when it actually reached its peak, I was 13 years old. That was in 1990. So I was still a teenager. And there was a lot that we went through. There was a lot that our parents went through, okay, to be able to keep us in school. And I tell you, it was a very, very traumatic period. I mean, it was at the point where, for the times we were able to go to school, we were never sure when we started school again whether we were going to end the semester or end the school year because we never knew when fighting would have broken up. Okay, and then there was also the trauma of worrying that whenever we have to leave school because of the outbreak of war, when we're going back to school, there are going to be some of us missing.
Hello?
I've
Okay. Now, do you think Liberia has really recovered or fully recovered from the war? Hello? It's it's like your phone is not getting out. I'm only getting, yeah, I'm only getting it through the phone. I'm not getting through the.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. It's okay
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Hello. It's okay now.
yeah, yeah, it's okay.
Okay. So now that the war has ended, we there has been talk, and the U.S. government has assured us of a war and economic crime squad. Now there's so much talk about it. People are saying forgive and forgive and forgive, but I believe in forgiveness. I'm a Christian. The Bible admonishes me to forgive, but people should learn to be responsible for their actions. Okay, I mean, we are Christians. Okay, so even the example with David in the Bible, David, he decided to kill his soldier, to sleep with his soldier's wife, and he knew he was wrong. After the prophet Naaman went to him, he realized he was wrong, but he did suffer. He lost a child, even though he fasted and prayed and fasted and prayed and begged God. He did suffer the consequences. And for me, I think there is so much argument. Some people are saying we should let bygones be bygones, and some people are saying no, let the war and economic crimes come to this country. And I agree. I agree 100%, because actually the culture of impunity in this country has to end. People should realize that when they do wrong, they get paid, they suffer the consequences of doing wrong. It is often said that where your rights end is where the next man's rights belong. You don't go about killing people, putting people through untold pain and suffering and trauma. Like some of our friends who have seen people kill their families before them, or rape their families before them, and then kill them and then maim their families. And then you say people should walk away because it's bygones with bygones. I don't agree. I really, really do not agree. I really believe that even our children coming out, generations unborn, let them come tomorrow and read the stories. Let history inform them that during this time, people killed people and they suffered for it. They bore the consequences of taking other people's lives or destroying other people's properties. So, like I said, I believe the culture of impunity in Liberia, it has to end. It really, really has to end. And there's and I believe this is something that's happening to other people too. I really thought I had gotten over the whole idea of what happened to me during the war, the trauma and the terrible experiences we went through. There's this former rebel leader called Prince Johnson, who who is now a senator. He says he's a pastor. He had this kind of thing for very light-skinned women, for fair women. And my mother is a very fair woman. And because he wanted to have my mother as one of his wives and she refused, the man threatened us. The first thing was that my stepfather had to flee to the other side of town and stay there because he could not go. We were living in his controlled territory, an area called Caldwell. So he could not go back to Caldwell for fear of his life. And then he started to threaten our mother and us. It so happened that we had to cross. There's a small river there is between the Caldwell community and another community called Barnersville. That's the other side of town. So we had to cross that river at midnight. The river is called Polo. We had to cross Polo that midnight to get on the other side of the road, of the town. And when we got there, it was like morning hours. And then somebody said, "Oh, there are alligators in this water." And I told myself, Thank God I learned that piece of information after the fact, because I probably would have died of fear in that water while we were in that canoe. Because if I felt anything, I would have thought it's an alligator and then start getting jittery and fearful until probably the canoe would have capsized and I would have ended up killing maybe all of us. So those were some of the trauma we had gone through. And this is something I thought I had gotten over until in 2020 December. After our special elections, we had a guest at the time I was actively practicing law, and we had this case at the National Elections Commission in the conference room. And when I entered the room, I was sitting in the back, and I started to peruse the rest of the room. I saw Prince Johnson sitting in the front, way in the front, like 150, 175 meters away from me. But I was so terrified, I started shaking. There was this man sitting next to me, and I had to hold on to the man's shirt. We were in a room full of people. And the man was sitting so far from me, but I was still terrified. It just took us to sit in the same room for those memories to come rushing back as if it happened yesterday. And the man I was sitting beside was so magnanimous. He told me, just be calm. Because I held onto his shirt I was like holding on to the man's shirt for dear life. And he was like, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Till he calmed him down. And I had to sit in my seat. The man was supposed to leave, but he sat there. I sat in my seat until Prince Johnson left that room before I was able to gather my courage, to be able to walk out of that room. And this was something that happened around 1993, 1994. But in 2020, I was still terrified, only because I was within the same proximity as this man who rained that terror on us. So, and I think it's not me alone. It's a lot of other people. There are other rebels who, my late grandmother, peace be to her ashes, she was, at the time, they were literally raping every girl they could see. So my grandmother always had us under the bed. That was during the heat of the war. We were practically like living under the beds. So somebody went and told the rebels that my grandmother had girls in her house. So when they went to her, she said, "Oh, I'm the only girl here." And they were like, "Oh no, Mama, we're not talking about you." She said, "Well, I'm the only girl. So if you're not talking about me, you can't be talking about anybody else, because I don't have any other girl in this house." Now, if my grandmother had not been so brave, to face those rebels, my sister, my cousins, and I would probably have been gang raped. And I thank God for that. I thank God for her. So that is how we were saved. But a lot of other people were not saved. Then in 2003, we go in development. But people are still angry. You see these people walking the streets with impunity. People are still very angry. It's like, you feel it when you go out. People are angered. People get so angry over the most simple issues. And it's simply because people think what should happen is not happening. They think they're not getting justice. And I agree. I think people must have justice. These people who wronged people, who killed people, they must have their day in court. And if they are found guilty, they must be punished. So that is it. The economy itself is really bad, but it's a common denominator across the world. So I don't want to put it to just Liberia alone. And then there are also allegations of terrible corruption. Okay. So you had a situation where the war ended, or Africa's first woman president was democratically elected. She stayed in power for 12 years. And for us women, we actually expected her to be able to give us something, some kind of quota, something that would guarantee women's political participation, and she did not. Okay. Anyway, it's something we're still fighting for, and the men, coincidentally, is the men that have decided to give us 30% representation, and that is about insisting that at least 30% of the listing for political parties, for candidates vying for positions, for elected positions, should be women. So that bill has been passed. We're waiting for our president to come back. He has traveled to be able to sign the law, and then it gets printed into handbills. So far, that's where we are. And violence against women is on the increase. What we're struggling to do now as women to ensure that electoral violence against women is reduced. People are, we're trying to see how best we can inform women, some education and awareness campaign, so that we can inform women about what to do if they think they have been attacked, and they think they've suffered electoral violence, and the pathway, what to do, how to seek redress, and if they are harmed, how to seek help, and all those kind of things. But so far, that's where we are. Could it be better? Yes, but we think gradually we're getting there. And one thing I'm really happy about is that with all our differences in this country, one thing is like we've made a silent vow. We've not said it to one another, but we've made a silent vow that never again, that we are never going to go to war. So there are times you said people, people have heavy arguments, but
Excuse me.
we know we're not going to go to
We
war.
just
Yes.
we just have 3 minutes to go, and I want to have ask two questions.
Okay.
Briefly tell us your happiest day so far. Briefly,
Sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
your happiest day so far.
My
Happiest day.
ID.
Happiest day.
Oh, my happiest day. Wow. I'm thinking what it is. Wow. The happiest day in my life. I've had many happy days, but I think the happiest among them is the day um, our war ended. Yes, because for some of us, we had spent virtually our entire youth running for our lives. When the war started in 1990, I was 13 years old. When it ended in 2003, I was 26. That was virtually my entire youth. And it 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 was that day we felt, yes, there's hope. Finally, we don't have to worry about running for our lives. We can rebuild our lives in peace. We don't have to run from guns. We don't have to keep building. We don't have to keep doing the same thing again, because when there's war and we have to run, people have to come back and start rebuilding their lives, and then there's war again. And it was like a vicious cycle. Okay. So
Okay.
it was like, okay, thank you.
Can you tell
So it
us
was like,
your
okay, thank God. The
can
war is over. Yes, it's over. We can finally start our lives without having to worry that we're going to go back to square one. So, yes, I think that was my happiest day.
what about your most embarrassing moment?
Pardon?
Your most embarrassing moment.
Well, it was, I have a nephew. He he's American. His parents had him in the States, and he came to spend the holiday with us.